Imagine standing on a beach, feeling the warm sand beneath your feet, breathing in the salty ocean air. Now imagine that this paradise will be gone forever in just a few decades. Our planet is changing faster than ever before, and some of the world's most breathtaking destinations are on borrowed time. Today, we're counting down 10 incredible places you need to see before they vanish from the face of the Earth. Let's begin our journey with a tropical paradise that's literally sinking beneath the waves. The Maldives, a name that evokes images of crystal clear turquoise waters, pristine white sand beaches, and overwater bungalows straight out of a dream. This island nation in the Indian Ocean consists of 1,190 coral islands grouped into 26 atolls, making it one of the world's most geographically dispersed countries. But here's the sobering truth. The Maldives is the lowest lying country on Earth, with an average ground level of just 1.5 meters above sea level. And it's disappearing fast. Scientists predict that by 2050, most of the Maldives could be uninhabitable. By 2010, it might be completely submerged. Rising sea levels caused by climate change are already eroding beaches at an alarming rate. During high tides, water now floods streets in the capital city of Malé. The Maldivian government has even held underwater cabinet meetings to raise awareness about this crisis. Some islands have already been abandoned. The nation is spending millions building artificial islands and seawalls, but many experts believe it's a losing battle against the ocean. If you've ever dreamed of staying in one of those iconic water villas, seeing the bioluminescent beaches, or swimming with manta rays in these pristine waters, don't wait. This paradise is on a countdown clock. From tropical paradise to European romance. Our next disappearing destination is Venice, Italy, the floating city that has captivated hearts for over 1,500 years. Built on 118 small islands, connected by over 400 bridges, Venice is an architectural masterpiece unlike anywhere else on Earth. Its narrow canals, ornate palaces, and rich history make it one of the most visited cities in the world. But this timeless beauty is facing an existential crisis that threatens to sink it beneath the Adriatic Sea forever. Venice is sinking, and it has been for centuries. The city subsides at a rate of 1 to 2 millimeters per year due to the weight of its buildings and the gradual compression of the sediment beneath it. But that's not the only problem. Sea levels in the Adriatic are rising, and the phenomenon known as acqua alta, high water, is becoming more frequent and severe. These flooding events, once rare occurrences, now happen over 60 times per year. In November 2019, Venice experienced its worst flooding in 50 years, with water levels reaching 187 centimeters. St. Mark's Square, the city's lowest point, was submerged under over a meter of water. Priceless artworks were damaged, businesses were destroyed, and the city's very foundations were further weakened. Scientists warn that by 2100, if current trends continue, regular flooding could make Venice uninhabitable. The Italian government has invested over 6 billion euros in the MOSE project, massive underwater barriers designed to protect the city from high tides. But critics argue it's too little, too late, and the system has already faced numerous delays and technical problems. What will we lose if Venice disappears? Not just a city, but a living museum of Renaissance art and architecture. The works of Titian and Tintoretto, the Byzantine mosaics of St. Mark's Basilica, the Gothic beauty of the Doge's Palace. All of this could be lost. If you've dreamed of gliding through canals on a gondola, getting lost in hidden alleyways, or watching the sunset over the Grand Canal, the time to visit is now. Venice is fighting for survival, and the clock is ticking. From sinking cities to dying oceans. Our next destination takes us underwater to one of Earth's most spectacular natural wonders, the Great Barrier Reef. Stretching over 2,300 kilometers along the coast of Queensland, Australia, this is the world's largest coral reef system and the only living structure visible from space. Home to over 1,500 species of fish, 400 types of coral, 4,000 species of mollusks, and countless other marine creatures. The Great Barrier Reef is one of the most biodiverse ecosystems on our planet. But this underwater paradise is dying right before our eyes. The reef is experiencing mass coral bleaching events at an unprecedented rate. Coral bleaching occurs when water temperatures rise, causing corals to expel the colorful algae living in their tissues, turning them ghostly white. Without these algae, corals starve and eventually die. The Great Barrier Reef has suffered 5 mass bleaching events since 1998, with the most severe occurring in 2016, 2017, 2020, and 2022. In 2016 alone, nearly 30% of the reef's coral died. Scientists estimate that the reef has lost more than half of its coral cover since 1995. Climate change is warming ocean waters, but that's not the only threat. Ocean acidification from absorbed CO2, agricultural runoff carrying pesticides and fertilizers, and the crown of thorns starfish that feeds on coral are all contributing to the reef's decline. Experts predict that if current trends continue, the Great Barrier Reef could be functionally dead by 2050. That means within just 26 years, one of the 7 natural wonders of the world could cease to exist as we know it. The economic impact would be devastating. The reef generates $6.4 billion annually and supports over 64,000 jobs in tourism and fishing. But beyond economics, we would lose an irreplaceable ecosystem that has existed for over 20 million years. Hundreds of species found nowhere else on Earth would vanish. The reef protects coastlines from storms and erosion. Its loss would be catastrophic. If you've dreamed of diving or snorkeling in these crystal clear waters, swimming alongside sea turtles, manta rays, and reef sharks, or witnessing the annual coral spawning, nature's greatest underwater spectacle, don't wait. This underwater wonderland is in critical condition. From the depths of the ocean to the roof of Africa. Our next disappearing wonder takes us to Tanzania, where Mount Kilimanjaro rises majestically, 5,895 meters above sea level. This dormant volcano is Africa's highest peak and one of the world's most iconic mountains. But what makes Kilimanjaro truly special is something that shouldn't exist this close to the equator: glaciers and snowfields. For thousands of years, gleaming white ice has crowned this tropical mountain, visible for hundreds of kilometers across the African savanna. Ernest Hemingway immortalized it in his story, The Snows of Kilimanjaro. But those legendary snows are melting away at an alarming rate. When first measured in 1912, Kilimanjaro's ice cap covered over 12 square kilometers. Today, more than 85% of that ice is gone. The mountain now has less than 1.85 square kilometers of ice remaining. Scientists studying the glaciers have documented retreat rates of up to 1 meter per year in some areas. The iconic northern ice field, once a massive glacier, has fragmented into smaller pieces separated by bare rock. Climate change is the primary culprit. Rising temperatures mean less snowfall and more melting. But it's not just warming air. Changes in moisture patterns mean the mountain receives less precipitation to replenish what's lost. Deforestation on the mountain's lower slopes has altered local weather patterns, reducing cloud cover that once protected the glaciers from direct sunlight. Most climate scientists predict that Kilimanjaro could be completely ice-free by 2030. That's just 6 years away. Some optimistic models give it until 2040, but the consensus is clear. Within your lifetime, the snows of Kilimanjaro will be gone forever. The loss goes beyond aesthetics. These glaciers are crucial water sources for communities living on the mountain slopes. Hundreds of thousands of people depend on meltwater for drinking, irrigation, and hydroelectric power. The glaciers also serve as natural climate archives. Ice cores contain thousands of years of climate data that will be lost forever. And then there's the cultural impact. Kilimanjaro's snow has spiritual significance to local tribes and has inspired countless artists, writers, and adventurers. If you've dreamed of seeing this African icon crowned in white, of witnessing the surreal sight of glaciers under the equatorial sun, or trekking to Uhuru Peak to stand on the roof of Africa, surrounded by ancient ice, the window is closing fast. The snows that have existed for 11,700 years are in their final chapter. From Africa's highest peak to the lowest point on Earth. Our next disappearing wonder is the Dead Sea, a salt lake bordered by Jordan, Israel, and the West Bank. Sitting 430 meters below sea level, this is Earth's lowest elevation on land. The Dead Sea is famous for its incredibly high salt content, nearly 10 times saltier than the ocean, which allows people to float effortlessly on its surface. For thousands of years, this unique body of water has attracted visitors seeking its therapeutic minerals and experiencing the surreal sensation of floating without effort. Ancient Egyptians used its minerals for mummification. Cleopatra established cosmetic factories here. King Herod built palaces on its shores. But this ancient wonder is dying at an unprecedented rate. The Dead Sea is shrinking by more than 1 meter per year. Since 1960, it has lost more than 1/3 of its surface area and dropped over 40 meters in depth. Where beaches and resorts once stood, there are now vast expanses of salt-crusted mudflats stretching hundreds of meters inland. The sea's surface area has decreased from 950 square kilometers to just 605 square kilometers today. What's causing this dramatic decline? Water diversion is the primary culprit. The Jordan River, which historically provided the Dead Sea with 1.3 billion cubic meters of water annually, now delivers less than 100 million cubic meters. Israel, Jordan, and Syria divert approximately 90% of the river's flow for agricultural irrigation and drinking water. Mineral extraction companies pumping water for potash and other minerals further accelerate the decline. Climate change brings less rainfall and higher evaporation rates. The result? One of the most dramatic environmental changes visible from space. As the water level drops, a new danger has emerged: sinkholes. Over 7,000 sinkholes have appeared around the Dead Sea in recent decades, some large enough to swallow buildings and roads. As water recedes, underground cavities formed by dissolving salt layers collapse suddenly, creating these dangerous craters. Entire beaches have been closed, roads have been destroyed, buildings have been abandoned. Scientists predict that if current trends continue, the Dead Sea could split into 2 separate bodies of water within decades and eventually dry up entirely like other terminal lakes before it. What would we lose? Not just a geological wonder, but a unique ecosystem supporting specialized bacteria and microorganisms found nowhere else. The therapeutic tourism industry, worth hundreds of millions of dollars, would collapse. Archaeological sites around the Dead Sea, including the caves where the Dead Sea Scrolls were discovered, face increasing instability. The unique experience of floating effortlessly while reading a newspaper, covering yourself in therapeutic black mud, or watching the sunset over the Judean desert from the lowest point on Earth, all of this could become just a memory. If you want to experience this ancient wonder, time is literally running out as the water drains away. From the world's saltiest waters to some of its purest ice, our next destination takes us to the southern tip of South America, to Patagonia's Los Glaciares National Park in Argentina. Here lies one of the planet's most spectacular glaciers, Perito Moreno. This massive river of ice stretches 30 kilometers long and rises over 70 meters above the surface of Lake Argentino, with another 170 meters hidden below the water. But what makes Perito Moreno truly special is something rare among the world's glaciers. Until recently, it was one of the few that wasn't retreating. While glaciers worldwide have been shrinking, Perito Moreno maintained a rare equilibrium, advancing and calving in a natural cycle. However, recent studies show this ice giant is now joining its siblings in retreat. Perito Moreno is a living, breathing entity. The glacier advances up to 2 meters per day, creating one of nature's most dramatic spectacles. Every few years, the glacier's advance dams a section of Lake Argentino, causing water levels to rise by up to 30 meters. Pressure builds until the ice dam catastrophically ruptures in an explosion of ice and water that can last for hours or even days. Thousands of tourists gather to witness this rare natural phenomenon. Massive chunks of ice, the size of buildings, breaking off and crashing into the turquoise waters below with thunderous roars. The sound of the glacier is constant, creaking, groaning, and cracking as ancient ice under tremendous pressure slowly flows forward. You can hear it breathing. But climate change is now affecting even this resilient giant. Temperature records show Patagonia warming faster than the global average. The glacier's mass balance is shifting. Scientists have documented increasing calving rates and changes in the glacier's structure. While Perito Moreno isn't disappearing as rapidly as other glaciers, researchers warn that it too is now in decline. The unique geographical conditions that allowed it to maintain stability, heavy snowfall in the accumulation zone, and a relatively narrow terminus, are being overwhelmed by rising temperatures. Models predict significant retreat within decades. What makes this loss particularly tragic is that Perito Moreno offers something increasingly rare: accessibility to a pristine, actively calving glacier. Visitors can stand just meters away from the glacier's face on specially built walkways, close enough to feel the cold radiating from millennia-old ice, close enough to hear it groan and crack. The glacier's electric blue ice, compressed over thousands of years until all air bubbles are squeezed out, creates a color so vivid it seems almost artificial. The experience of watching a building-sized chunk of ice calve off and crash into the lake, sending up massive spray and creating waves that rock boats hundreds of meters away. This is primal, awe-inspiring nature. If you've dreamed of witnessing the raw power of a glacier, of seeing ice that fell as snow before the pyramids were built, or experiencing the ground-shaking boom of a major calving event, Perito Moreno should be on your urgent bucket list. Even this resilient giant is beginning to succumb to our warming world, from ice and salt to the world's greatest living ecosystem. Our next disappearing wonder is the Amazon rainforest, the lungs of our planet. Spanning over 5.5 million square kilometers across 9 countries in South America, with roughly 60% in Brazil, the Amazon is the largest tropical rainforest on Earth. This incredible ecosystem is home to approximately 10% of all species on the planet, over 40,000 plant species, 1,300 bird species, 3,000 types of fish, 430 mammals, and an estimated 2.5 million insect species. Indigenous communities have called this forest home for over 11,000 years. The Amazon River, flowing through its heart, discharges more water than the next 7 largest rivers combined. But this irreplaceable ecosystem is being destroyed at an alarming rate, and what we're losing is far more than just trees. Every minute, an area of Amazon rainforest equivalent to 5 football fields is cleared. Since 1970, we've lost approximately 20% of the original Amazon forest, an area larger than the entire country of France. The main driver? Agriculture. Cattle ranching accounts for roughly 80% of deforestation. followed by soy cultivation, logging, and mining. The process is devastating. Trees are cut down and burned, releasing massive amounts of carbon dioxide. The ash temporarily fertilizes the soil, but without forest cover, tropical rains quickly wash away nutrients, leaving degraded land that often becomes desert. Recent years have seen some of the worst fires in Amazon's history. In 2019, over 906,000 hectares burned. Many of these fires deliberately set to clear land. Satellite images showed smoke covering an area half the size of Europe. The destruction accelerated further in 2020 and 2021. But it's not just the area lost. It's what that forest does for our planet. The Amazon generates approximately 20% of Earth's oxygen and stores between 90 to 140 billion tons of carbon. When trees burn, that carbon is released. Scientists warn we're approaching a tipping point. Research suggests that if deforestation reaches 20 to 25% of the original forest area, the Amazon could experience forest dieback, a catastrophic shift where the rainforest transforms into savanna. We're already at 20%. This isn't just environmental, it's existential. The Amazon creates its own weather system. Trees release moisture through transpiration, creating rain clouds that travel across the continent. Destroy enough forest, and this rain-making mechanism fails. Regional and global climate patterns would be disrupted. Rainfall across South America would decrease. Agricultural productivity would collapse. The loss of biodiversity would be incalculable. Species going extinct before we even discover them, including potential cures for diseases. Indigenous communities whose cultures are intimately connected to the forest would lose their homes and way of life, and the global climate impact would be catastrophic. Losing the Amazon would make it virtually impossible to limit global warming to 1.5 or even 2 degrees Celsius. If you've dreamed of experiencing the world's greatest rainforest, hearing the symphony of howler monkeys at dawn, seeing jaguars prowl along riverbanks, encountering pink river dolphins, walking beneath the dense canopy where sunlight barely penetrates, or meeting indigenous communities who still live in harmony with this ancient ecosystem, the window is closing. The Amazon has survived for 55 million years. We're destroying it in decades. From the world's greatest forest to the world's highest peak. Our next disappearing wonder is Mount Everest, known as Sagarmatha in Nepali and Chomolungma in Tibetan, meaning Mother Goddess of the World. Standing at 8,849 meters above sea level, Everest is the ultimate symbol of human ambition and nature's power. For decades, climbers have risked everything to stand on its summit, but the mountain that has challenged humanity for generations is changing. The eternal snows that crown the roof of the world are melting, and with them, the mountain itself is transforming in ways that threaten both climbers and the millions who depend on its glaciers for water. Everest is warming. Temperature data shows the Himalayan region is heating approximately 3 times faster than the global average. The Khumbu Glacier, the route most climbers take to reach the summit, is thinning rapidly, losing over 80 meters of thickness since the 1960s. The iconic Khumbu Icefall, a treacherous labyrinth of shifting ice towers that climbers must cross, is becoming increasingly unstable and dangerous. Crevasses open unexpectedly. Ice bridges collapse. Routes that were stable for seasons now change daily. But it's not just ice that's melting. Everest has another problem: trash and bodies. As glaciers melt and retreat, they're revealing decades of accumulated waste, abandoned climbing equipment, oxygen bottles, tents, and the preserved bodies of climbers who died on the mountain. The melting ice is turning Everest into the world's highest graveyard and garbage dump. The Sherpa community, who make their living guiding expeditions, report that conditions are becoming more dangerous each year. The implications go far beyond mountaineering. Everest and the Himalayas are often called the third pole. because they contain the largest amount of ice outside the Arctic and Antarctic. These glaciers feed 7 of Asia's greatest rivers, providing water to nearly 2 billion people. As they melt, the consequences are catastrophic. Initially, there's more water, causing floods. Eventually, there's less, causing drought. Scientists predict that by 2100, the Himalayas could lose up to 80% of their glaciers if current warming trends continue. Communities in Nepal, India, Bangladesh, and beyond face water scarcity. Hydroelectric power will decline. Agriculture will suffer. If you've dreamed of trekking to Everest Base Camp, seeing the sunrise illuminate the world's highest peak, witnessing the spiritual connection between Sherpa culture and their sacred mountain, or understanding why humans are drawn to such extreme places, go soon. The Everest of the next generation will be a very different mountain than the one we know today.